Carole Robinson. Welcome to this edition of County Happenings, where we find out what's going on in the county, in this great, wonderful county, with we talk with our County Mayor, Rogers Anderson.
Well, thank you, Carole. It's great to be here, but it's even greater to be a Williamson County. You know, not sure when this show will air, but just think about Houston, Texas, New Orleans, all the state of Florida, and all the bad weather that they've had. Now, we've had our share of rain this year. It's been a pretty comfortable year, but nothing like they've seen.
Right, and all at once.
And
even our 2010 can't compare with some of the areas, especially in Houston.
No, in Houston, some of those areas got
50 inches.
50 inches of rain. Now that's pretty high.
That's more than they get in a year.
Yeah, most of them. But the call, we had a show recently, and Bill Jorgensen and Mac Purdy were on there. Mac's our EMA director, and of course Bill Jorgensen's our public safety director, kind of oversees the whole operations of public safety here in our county. But if you couple what the cities did that could afford the manpower and the woman power and the equipment from Brentwood and Franklin and Williamson County, and some of the other cities just don't have the manpower and the equipment to send down. Well, Bill and two other people went down from our department. We sent 6 teams. I believe it was 6 teams. No, I'm telling you wrong. We sent 4 Swiftwater that required 6 people on each one of those shift changes. Bill went down as a communication director. He's known throughout the state for all of his abilities and the technical side, dragging the equipment down there, dragging the IT people down there so you can get all that wired up to help out. They stayed in the back of the county vehicle for better part of a week, 7 days, working on and off. They're away from their families. And just to be able to do that. And now just recently we've had a call to help out in Florida, in a city down there, for 20 days. And as much as we try to help, and we'll help in some way, it's 20 days away from your family.
Right.
Living in some pretty adverse conditions.
Yeah.
Taking showers wherever you can take showers. We do have a vehicle that we can transport down and hook up, but there's no water. There's nothing to hook up to. So it's pretty primitive, and
it's like camping.
It's probably rougher than camping because at least it's dry. Bill was talking about it. You know, he's got a big old long Tahoe, and he could crawl back there in the back, and the other guys can crawl in there. It's like being a Boy Scout all over again. Is what it is. But just the commitment of our community to step up and say yes. And there's a call. There's a procedure to go through. The state of Texas has to ask for permission, and once it's declared a federal disaster zone by the President of the United States, that sends the money down. Because you have to stop and realize, and I doubt many people think about this. All right, you've had this devastation. You've lost your home. You've lost all your personal belongings. You've lost your business. You've lost all the
and
things.
Most people don't have the type of insurance that will help them get that back.
That is correct. But what it also does from the government side, without that disaster money coming from Washington, their tax base during that period of time is gone.
Yeah.
There are no
property taxes, no business taxes.
Right. And you base your property tax on a viable business that's in place. And now there's some mechanisms in place to continue that. But if you can't make money, you can't pay your taxes. That's just the way it is. And so 101 Main Street, the small businesses, that's what they depend on. The people like you and I shopping. We saw that same thing in Gatlinburg, where they were just didn't have the volume of people to come in and spend their dollars to support what you have to have. And so when the President of the United States calls a disaster, and then the Governor of Texas goes to the surrounding states, and then Governor Haslam puts out the call to the areas that can support this, then the federal government reimburses you for your manpower that you send down and for some wear and tear on your equipment. But it's more of a, I said in the show earlier, we are our neighbor's keeper.
Right.
And those are the things we should do. And I'm so proud of our county when we can do things like that.
And it says a lot for our county for being such forward thinkers in having the equipment and the trained manpower. Because you can have the equipment, but if these people aren't trained for it,
Absolutely.
I mean, they're training because it could happen to us, but because of that training, they can help other people.
And they learn. I mean, those 26 people, the next 20 that go down to Florida, they learn and they come back. They bring those ideas back, say, well, we need this, we don't need that. These are the things we need to be prepared for.
This worked, this didn't.
That's right. There is nothing, as you and I enter those, we're almost entering our twilight years.
No, not me.
You're not sure? Okay.
I'm just
I am
39 and holding.
But there's nothing you can substitute for experience. You can have desktop exercises, you can have practical exercises, but until the old saying, to the rubber hits the road, and you go out and you see what you need and how you're going to deal with it, and you bring that back and you train others, there's just no substitute for it. Now, I'm not saying have accidents and disasters for training, but you've got to have men and women that know what they're doing in those situations. And then the other thing I want to say before we actually get into the talk of the show is about 2 weeks, we were just in 4 or 5 days of Houston, and Jeff Long and Dr. Mike Looney and the other mayors, we all got together, made a call for number 2 pencils and notebooks and backpacks to help those boys and girls. This is before Irma came through Florida. I mean, Harvey was literally just tearing up the whole area down there in Houston and Louisiana and parts of Texas. And
coming and going and coming and going.
That's right. And so at some point, life does get back to normal. And part of that normalcy is children need to settle down when they can, and they've got to go back to school. And schools have got to be able to teach again. Well, the kids don't have anything. The stores have been ravished.
Right. They can't.
Flood.
It's not even that they can get it. They can't. Don't have it, and they can't get it.
And that's not a priority.
Right.
That's just not a priority at that point of the game. At some point, it is. So the call was made to the community. To the press was there. Got the message out great for us, and the major networks in Nashville. And our goal was for 8 days to ask for these items, school supplies. And we started 2 days before Labor Day. And when I said, well, that's when we need to start, that's Saturday. Well, Labor Day is probably not the best thing to be asking for in supplies. We asked 2 churches to step up. I made 2 phone calls to them and said, could you help us out? Without question, Barry's Chapel Church of Christ and Grace Chapel both said, just tell us when to be there and what we need to do. They did. And we were to fill up a tractor trailer load of these different supplies. Lasco stepped up and gave us crates and boxes so that we could
put them on.
And then we did all this.
So all these logistics, even if people donate it, you've got to put it in something.
Yes.
And you've got to get it there.
We had the Hispanic population come out on a Sunday afternoon. There must have been 25 or 30. They came out and took the supplies and started putting them in the backpacks. So when they got on the other end, it was you could come up and get a backpack for a boy, or you pick up one and get it for a girl.
It's all full.
And it's done for you. We had over 3,000 backpacks turned in.
Wow.
And many, many more pallets of notebooks and number 2 pencils and these things. The sheriff, I was talking to him just yesterday, and he said, now I've got a tractor trailer load and some. And so then he called me today and said, and we've got more than some. So we got to have, they're still coming in a week after. Many organizations, I know the Noon Rotary, in which I was a member, they made a plate out and just filled it up. No place in our county, and there are other organizations doing things for food and diapers and clothing, but we tried to stay in the school supply business. We didn't ask for teacher supplies. We had 2 huge boxes, I mean pallets. They took a forklift to lift them of teacher supplies that they're going to need for instructional aid to these teachers. So I'm sure we're going to approach somewhere in the neighborhood of 35 to 4,000 backpacks that we'll send back out to the Houston area. Now, it wouldn't surprise me that Florida is going to come in with that same thing. But I do know at the local level here, we were not taking money and gift cards and things like that. But I had friends that said, look, let me just give you $50 or $100. And so I went down to a pretty good sized chain store here in town and asked the clerk that was working, I said, do you have any backpacks left? Well, for some reason, they're all being sold.
Gee.
And I said, well, do you have any
You're
more
going to have to
left?
go to another county to find some.
She said, well, we've got some in the back, but they're not the nice ones. I said, ma'am, do you have any? They went back, and every one they got, I had enough money, I just bought them all. Well, I told them what I was doing, and I think I was a couple of dollars short, and they just said, well, here, take care of it. Oh. And it's that kind of camaraderie that's just, and I was talking to Ellie Chin, our CVB director, and they're raising food through Grace Works and all these different churches and organizations. It's just, it's wonderful. It has nothing to do with being mayor.
No.
But it sure is nice to be mayor of a county like that.
This, right.
That just steps up.
And that's, I mean, it's what this county does. This is not unusual.
No.
It's wonderful. It's not unusual. This is what, if somebody in the county comes on bad times, if a group learns about it, somebody's there to help them.
And I'm sure every county, I could only imagine what happened in Sevier County up around Gatlinburg, and I know, I mean, my goodness, Dolly Parton, well, look what she did. She raised millions of dollars. And dollars are important. I understand that. The Red Cross giving blood supplies, but it sure is nice in Williamson County that pencils and paper and backpacks and scissors and glue, they'll be on their way to Houston, Texas to help a bunch of people.
Yeah, and the kids that'll get that are the ones that really need it.
And they'll never know.
No, and that's what it's all about.
That's right.
That's what giving is about. It's making somebody happy and not getting.
Don't need the rewards, but I say thank you.
The reward is in your own heart.
Yes, but I say thank you to all those people that participated, and there'll be many other needs as we go down the road.
And speaking of school supplies,
good lead, Ed, huh?
This county is in dire need of room for schools.
Yes, recently, well, let me back up. About a year and a half ago, you and I have talked about it. I won't go into all the details. Dr. Looney and the school board presented a building program over the next 10 years, 12 years, 10 to 12 years for about 15 to 18 more schools or add-ons, additional things that we're going to need to handle all this growth. So the first year, we played around with the pennies we call in the tax rate. Brentwood helped out a great deal by writing a check for $2.3 million to help the situation, the dire situation was going on in the Brentwood for their building programs. And we went through a whole bunch of gyrations. I don't know any other way to say it. Nina Graham, our budget director, Sam Cruz, and myself, we just kept playing around, got the commissioners comfortable with what we were doing, and we were able to go through this year without a tax increase and do some creative finance without hurting our bond rating. Well, then the big question came up and said,
what about next year?
What about next year, and what about the next 9 years? How do we handle all that? And we do have long-term capital needs program that we try to meet. We try to match that up with funding. But in our county, the growth is so phenomenal that it's hard to plan much more than 3 years. We're growing 1,500, 1,800 kids. 1,000 is, for most systems, is off the chart.
Right.
We do it every year. And the state, and this isn't a picking on the state of Tennessee, but it's just stating the facts, they don't send down the same amount of money to us that they would send in some of the more rural areas.
Because of our ability to pay.
And our ability to pay and our socioeconomics. But that puts that burden on us. And I have relayed that message to all four of the representatives. They know it. They're doing the best they can. So how do we pay for that? you've only got 2 or 3 different mechanisms that the county commission, who is responsible for paying the mortgage on the building. When you and your husband got married, you bought a house, you had a mortgage on it, and so whatever money you all made, you had to pay for the groceries, you had to pay for the light bills, but oh, by the way, you had to pay the mortgage company.
The mortgage came first.
Right. And in government, excuse me, it doesn't work that way. The schools ask for it. If the county commission approves it, county commission or the government side, my side, is responsible for paying for all that. So we could raise property taxes. You can raise wheel taxes. Notice I'm saying all of them you have to raise, and the sales tax. There's a few other little things, but they don't generate enough money that you could even pay the note back on $400 million worth of new building and add-ons and et cetera, and it's all based on growth. Growth in itself does not pay for itself. Never has. You know that. I know that. It helps, but it doesn't pay totally 100%. We tried the educational impact fee, where we were put a fee on new home construction. That went through a year and a half. That said, if you move into our county, if you're a new resident, and you got to pay a little bit more to live here to help make up the cost of what the existing residents. Don't shift all that cost on the existing resident. Let's let some of the new people pay for that. We put that in place in March of 2017 at 50% of the rate, and since March through August, we raised $5 million.
Sounds like a lot, but still not enough.
Well, it was 50 cents, so it should have been 10, but it wasn't. We agreed to that. It didn't slow construction down a bit, is my point. And contrary to everybody saying it's just going to stop, it's not going to do it. Well, the Home Builders Association decided that they didn't like that, and they didn't like it going in, and they filed a lawsuit. So now we have $5 million sitting in an account
that you can't touch.
That we will not touch until the court is heard. And of course, if we're successful here at the local level, which I think it just keeps going till it gets on up to the Supreme Court. I suspect it'll take a period of time to get to that point. In the meantime, you have to take the money in, and you're earmarking it, but you don't. I feel good about our position, our lawyers, our team of lawyers, which is costly. And I understand the home builders. They think that it should be spread out some other way, not on.
Do they have any suggestions?
We'll find out, I guess, when we go to court. I don't think their suggestions are going to be how to do it. I think theirs is they differ with the way we're doing it. Granted, we're the first county in the state that's done it, so we're the test case. And it's a creative idea that I think we've tried to, again, avoid raising those property taxes. When you look at property taxes all around the Middle Tennessee area, Williamson County is the lowest. So there's always people saying, well, why don't you raise it? Problem when you raise property taxes, that affects everyone. Right. And it's forever. You don't ever take those off.
Exactly.
And it raises on your businesses too. So, you know, it's a catch-22 situation.
Right. And a lot of the people that are saying that are people that it's not going to affect them that much as far as their pocket. Whereas there's enough people in this county that are living either on a fixed income or they're the worker bees. They're not making that, you know, they're still making under the $100,000 amount.
My whole theory on it, and I've got great friends in the home building world, and many of them have supported me many years. They may not anymore, but but quite frankly, they're businessmen just like I am, and you run your business, and you got to get the revenue to help pay for it. But I think it's fair to ask new people that move into your community to pay a little extra to catch up because they're moving here.
And it's only one time. It's not like it's continual for every year.
And that property tax is every year.
Exactly. And when that goes up, it's every year.
So we're trying to avoid looking at the property tax. And so the next step we looked at, well, let's look at the sales tax. So currently, when you buy something in Williamson County, the total is 9.25. Out of that 9.25, 2.25 is what we call the local share. The first 7 goes to the state of Tennessee. Every dollar that's spent goes to the state of Tennessee. then they'd redistribute it to all the counties. Well, Williamson County happens to send quite a bit of sales tax dollars to the state for their redistribution. But that remaining 2.25, half of it goes to the city, and half of it goes to the city that it originated in. So if you shop in Franklin, half of it goes to Franklin, and the other half goes directly to the school. Now, I didn't say any of it comes over to the county general. It goes directly to the schools or it goes to the cities. So the theory in my mind was to go to every one of our cities, all 6 of them, and ask them, would you give up your half of that 0.5 increase for 3 years? Because at that point, we've got some bonds being paid off, and we can backfill some of that.
And the cities are where the majority of the growth is anyway.
Absolutely.
The county is not growing as fast as
unincorporated.
Oh, that's what I mean.
Unincorporated. The unincorporated parts of our county do not grow in proportion to the cities. They're just cities because they're on sewer.
Right.
And they build high. We don't have any apartments. We don't have any large
businesses or anything.
That's
like
right.
that.
We don't. We make 3 out of our total budget. About $3 million a year is in sales tax.
Just the county makes.
Just the unincorporated.
Yeah.
Whereas the city.
And that's all the little general stores in the
that's
county.
Right. We don't have that many.
Yeah, and little home businesses and stuff like that.
Anyway, the theory was to go to each of the cities, so we did that. And asked them to do a memorandum of understanding that for 3 years they'd give up their money.
And how did you come up with 3 years?
A lot of it is based on bond counsel, that in 3 years out we could see where some of the bonds that we were paying were falling off. We could refinance a few of them. Bonds are like stocks. You have to wait a certain amount of time to refinance them. That was one reason, which was the main reason. The second reason is I'm not sure I could have got the cities to go much further than 3. Because after that 3, they need extra revenue too, roads, sewer, water, the infrastructure needs that they have. And it's a way for them to if I call a countywide referendum, I really need the cities to buy into it. And remember how the money was distributed.
Right.
It goes to the city, goes to the school. I still don't have the money to pay the mortgage. So I have to do a memorandum, and it's kind of a political trade-off there. They want to help, but they want to help within a reasonable amount of time. So for 3 years plus, we'll have the revenue coming in to help pay the mortgage payment on the new future building. It's not to say we're not going to have property taxes in the years out. It's not to say we're not going to look at wheel taxes. When you've got a growing community, you got to have extra revenue, just like that water costs more. Everything we do costs more, and it's just an attempt on my part. I know I'm not going to be liked. I know I'm going to be the nose on the face that's saying, well, he's asking for a sales tax increase. That's unfortunately my job. But we're getting down to the end of the journey of how are we going to pay for these schools. Now, if we're going to build them, we've got to have a way to pay for them.
Right.
And the county commission is saying, yes, yes, yes. And so they're basically saying, all right, now you figure out how to pay for them. Because the last stop is property taxes.
Yes.
Or you start saying no to growth in schools. Now, there'd be some people, like you and I, don't have kids in school, but we want our grandkids to have a fair chance. And our schools are really holding our property values up good. So we'll see how it goes in the month of November. It's my intention to ask the county commission to sponsor a resolution to call for a referendum. That means they're supportive of the sales tax increase, but they'll call for it. Then we have 75 days in which to put it on a ballot, no more than 90. So our meetings in about second Monday in November. So somewhere in late January, early February, we would have a sales tax referendum to see if you want to raise the sales tax countywide, 0.5. I'm fine, I got a cough drop.
Okay.
That's about 50 cents on $100. Now, what's going to cost you more To those people
So
watching,
then the 0.5 is the would be
7.5.
9.75.
I realize that sales tax oftentimes is associated with it's a regressive tax. Those that least can afford it get hit some of the hardest. I acknowledge that. I also know, though, that sales tax, about 20 to 22% of the sales tax that comes into our county comes in from other jurisdictions that do not live here. Shoppers, people from Davis County, Murray County, all surrounding area, the business market.
Tourists.
Tourism's coming to our town. And it's a way, it's still the better option in my opinion than raising
To me,
property.
it's everybody pays it. Everybody's paying, everybody's contributing, whereas property tax, the only people that are paying it are the people that own property.
Well, I mean,
And people in apartments, they're not paying it unless they pay it through their rent, but they're not paying it directly.
and I will even say, I'm sure that I'm going to have to use some political clout to even get some people to even agree to it. But it is critical mass that we give the voters an opportunity to make that decision.
Right.
And all I'm offering, and the county commission and these cities that all have signed on the agreement, that it's a solution. It is one solution, but not doing anything
Is not an
is
answer.
not that's not a solution. Now you hear all the time, not doing anything, you come up with a solution. You do, but it's not one you like.
Right.
And unfortunately, I'm going to be the one that has to do it. So I came into office as conservative. I'll probably leave out as an office as a moderate someday. But I think it's the right thing for us to try to go to the taxpayers and say, tell us what you want to do. Because every time property taxes come up, everybody gets unglued. Here's another option.
Yeah, well, and give people a chance to voice their opinion. During that process, you may get some ideas on other things
Right?
that can help. But that's the whole idea behind this country and this county, is that people get a chance to voice their
It's
opinion.
called democracy.
Yes, in action, in a constitutional republic.
That's right.
And Constitution Day is tomorrow.
It is Sunday.
Sunday.
And yes, we'll be down at church with daughters.
The bells ringing.
The bells ringing, and 230 years. I forgot how long it is, but it's been a long time. But again, you look at the good this county does. You look at how we're growing, low unemployment, good jobs, healthy community. Wow, we got a lot of things to be thankful
We
for.
do, we do.
But it comes with trying to find solutions on a lot of others.
Exactly. And we hope you find a lot of solutions in your next coming months, especially with Christmas coming around the corner.
Around the corner.
And we'll see you next time on County Happenings.
Out of the Wild by David Harris. Sound ricochets through the valley, across the river, bank to bank. From the porch you hear the wails that sound at first like sirens. The dog rises, nervous, and sniffs and stays close. He knows his cousin's call. Just beyond Manhattan's nighttime glow, coyotes haunt these hills. In the morning, you grab the train for Grand Central while wildness sleeps in your backyard.